Last year, my husband and I went to Korea and Japan. It was so much fun, and I'm excited to share our trip with you. Our flight was 16 hours long, and I started reading Flowers for Algernon. What an amazing book. I think it's one of my all-time favorites. I nearly finished it in one sitting, but it got dark and I was afraid my light was bothering people who were trying to sleep. So I turned it off and we ended up watching Severance instead. And that was a really good show too. After our trip, we kept joking around. Our innies and outies were confused as we struggled to get back into work mode.
It smells nice.
It is nice.
So turn the key and cooler on. Push the pause for relief. Free pass, you don't even have to ask to be the cat in the sun. Someday I will see the whole deal through today. I've got better things to do. Okay, to leave a little bit undone and be the cat in the sun.
We spent the night in Seoul, and in the morning, we took the train down to Busan. I finished Flowers for Algernon on the train. It's such a heartbreaking story. I really enjoyed it. As soon as we got off the train, someone said, "안녕," and I looked and it was my brother-in-law and my sister-in-law. I was so shocked and I burst out laughing. I wasn't expecting to see them on the platform. That was so nice of them to pick us up there. I must have been frowning after all that traveling because I felt the smile come on my face when I saw them. If you're familiar with Korean vloggers, you might know Plan D. She goes to Dongdaemun all the time in Seoul. It's like this building where they sell beads and tools, fabrics and clothes. Well, there's something similar in Busan. It's called Busanjin Market. My sister-in-law brought us here knowing I'm into these like crafty activities, and I was in heaven. I could have spent hours here. I think if I lived here, I would be here all the time. There were so many cute beads and tools and charms. I loved it so much.
I feel like I could spend like a whole day here. Dangerous.
We had to hurry along because I had booked a skincare appointment for my husband and myself. They did a scan of our skin and they explained how my husband's skin is very dry and my skin is extremely oily. I'm so glad we found out because we would just kind of share skincare products, not knowing we had totally different skin types. We both had around 28 moles removed from our face, and we also got a laser treatment done to help with acne scars. I have to say, my sister-in-law planned out the coolest itinerary for us in Busan. She brought us to so many places that we would not have known about. We went to this area called F1963 Cultural Center. It used to be a wire factory. I think this whole facility is a hidden gem. They had this huge bookstore there too. My Korean is not good enough to read novels, so I really thought I should practice my Korean and improve. I'd love to read a Korean novel one day and share that experience with my mom.
There is a life I lead in this city, hurrying to cut my teeth. I can take what I need to get by. It doesn't make it easy. The other piece of my heart moves slow, somewhere in the great unknown. When I return from the afterglow, will you carry me like I am whole again? Wait, hold on, put me together, take me back where I belong. I want it all. I had a feeling, but the feeling is all gone. Wait, hold
Next, we went to Gwangalli Beach area. I think this was my favorite area in Busan. Next time we visit, I'd love to stay in this area and really enjoy it. There's this street with so many cafes and restaurants, and there's this huge unobstructed view of the beach and the water, people walking along on the street. Can you just imagine sitting there at one of the cafes with a book, enjoying the breeze and the white noise of the city? I really have to go back. We dropped by this marketplace. It had a lot of cute shops and food stalls. It gets popular at night. People come out to hang out and drink, which is not really our scene, so it was fun to just look around.
in the moment I hung desperately. The other ring on my wrist is gold, pairing with the light it holds. When I return from my skin and bones, I'm remembering the words you told me. Wait, hold on, put me together, take me back where I belong. I want it all. I had a feeling, but the feeling is all gone. Wait.
For dinner, we went to a seafood barbecue restaurant. Started with scallops with corn cheese, so good, and then ended with spicy seafood soup. The broth was amazing. At the end, you put in these instant ramen noodles. It was so delicious. A custom mechanical keyboard was on the top of my husband's wish list for this trip. I don't know why I felt so shy and I felt bad. I felt like I was bothering the people there, but my husband and sister-in-law were like, come on, just try it out. Don't worry about it. And yeah, I tested it out and I ended up going for the cat ones. I got these super soft ones. I love the sound and feel, and it's been really good for my work. We took a taxi over the bridge to Busan Port, and there's this huge building shaped like a ship, and it's called the P-Arc Cultural Center. There's restaurants and cafes, and the food was really good. Right beside the P-Arc is the Busan Art Museum. It's a media exhibition space similar to those popular team labs in Japan. They use digital art, light, objects, sound, smell, sometimes water and wind. I think it's an interesting experience. However, I do find it a little strange when AI and tech is trying to mimic nature and traditional art. It feels a little post-apocalyptic, but I can still appreciate that a lot of work went into this though, and they did a good job of balancing the design principles without it being a mirror show. We ended the night at this restaurant called Mongjak. It's a self-serve Korean barbecue restaurant. It's cute. They set it up like a mini grocery store where you go buy the meats, veggies, side dishes, and drinks. You can even eat outside with like outdoor tents and tables. As we finished eating, there was a performance at the restaurant. They were a singing duo and they have a YouTube channel called DM Studio. We were sitting by the fire pit and we turned our chairs to face them and they were like, whoa, this is the first time we have an actual audience. I guess people there usually just listen casually while they're eating, but it was a lot of fun. They started taking song requests and we cheered on and laughed. It was another core memory that we made together. The next day we said bye to our family to leave for Japan. I teared up. It was bittersweet to leave, but we were also excited for the next phase of our trip, and I can't wait to share that with you. Hello, I'm back home now, and I wanted to share about the book that I read on this stretch of the trip, which was Flowers for Algernon by Daniel Keyes. I don't know if it's Algernon or Algernon, but yeah, this was such an amazing, amazing book. It's one of those books where I wish I could read it for the first time, like over and over again. So if you're looking for a book recommendation and you haven't read this one yet, I really, really recommend it. So the story is about a man named Charlie, and he was born with an intellectual disability. And although his age is about 30 years old, he has the intellectual capacity of a child. One day he selected to undergo this new scientific experiment that has been successful on mice in dramatically increasing their IQ. So he undergoes this surgery and at first it seems like a success. The story makes you question, if you have low IQ, does that make you any less of a human? How in society we tend to idolize and value intellect and ego over kindness and morals. The book is a really good balance of just really good storytelling with good pacing and characters. I also really love how it makes you think and reflect on yourself and society and a lot of philosophical questions, and yeah, it's such a good book. So in case you don't want any spoilers, I suggest you stop it here. But I do want to talk just a bit about some of my favorite parts of the book. I really love Daniel Keyes' writing. It's not beautiful in the same way that Hangang's writing is really beautiful, but I just thought it was perfect for this story. I loved how it was told through Charlie's progress reports and how you can visually see his progress in his spelling and his grammar, and how Charlie, he goes through so much in the story, but I really loved that he was able to maintain his own progress reports, because at least then he was able to have control over something in his life and in this whole process, and that gave him some of his dignity back, which was constantly being taken from him. I thought the way that Algernon and Charlie were paralleled was really well done. It never felt like too cheesy and forced. It was really emotional, and yeah, I really loved how that was written. The parts where he's bullied by his friends at the bakery just was so heartbreaking and sad. It made me just feel so sad. And what made it more sad was how Charlie is such a kind and pure person that he just wants to make people happy and make people smile. And it's interesting how that changes as he gains his intellect, and how It's funny that his old friends start to dislike him as he becomes more aware, and he's not this silly, goofy guy who they can pick on anymore, who they can feel superior to anymore. And yeah, again, it's just a really cool reflection on our society and those social dynamics that I think regardless of your intellectual standing, like maybe it's not as dramatic as it is for Charlie. I think that type of experience is something that we can all relate to. The dynamic with his mother, father, and his sister, I thought that it was really well written. Like, it's a very complicated dynamic. Of course, it's very sad, and the mother was quite cruel, but at the same time, I think, again, he did a good job on conveying that complex dynamic, because I think as a mother, not that I am a mother, but like in the mother's perspective, I could kind of understand where she was coming from, because the more she tried to help Charlie and he wasn't improving, not because of his fault, but just that's how he was born, the more she couldn't understand him and the more she pushed him away. And her own son became a stranger to her and started to fear him and wanted to protect her daughter. I think it's a good reflection on how a lot of parents really do react to their children with disabilities, especially as they grow older and go through puberty. And, you know, it's a hard thing to navigate having a mental or intellectual disability and sexuality if you have siblings and how they interact. I think it can be kind of a scary thing to navigate and very complicated. But of course, I think the mother was very cruel towards Charlie, and it was super heartbreaking to read. Again, I just feel like there's so much that gets touched on in this book, but it does it in a way where, like, the book is not that long, and it's done through dialogue and storytelling and not this like literal, you know, deep dive into these topics, which for me made reading the story a lot like really fun and enjoyable. And yeah, I'm kind of excited to wait a few years for some of the details of this book to escape me, and then I can read this again, similar to reading it for the first time again. I think that'll be really fun. And yeah, if you've read this book, I'd love to know your thoughts on it, your favorite parts, or if you didn't like this book, I'd be curious to know why you didn't like it. Just coming from the perspective of loving it so much, it's interesting to hear like the opposite and why that is. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.